What is going on, YouTube? What is going on, fellow fantasy people? And of course, what is up, D Catch fam? All right, you guys already know what time it is, man. Week 9 waiver wires are here. Okay, gotta get ready, man. There is a lot to get into today. So make sure you guys hit that like button on your way. And make sure if you are new here, you are subscribed down below and part of the Catch family, man. Make sure you got the notification bell on so you never miss a single stream or upload. And man, whew, if you do watch this retrospectively, let me know in the comments down below. If you have any questions pertaining to week 9, right? Any questions at all in general pertaining to the 2021 fantasy football season, I will be personally responding to every single comment. So let's just hop into it, guys. Okay, a lot to get into. All right. So you see at the top of the screen, I've got my top 10 waiver wire additions here in week 9. Jeremy McNichols. Okay, so the big news today, right? Derrick Henry goes down with a potential broken foot, and that should leave Derrick Henry out for the remainder of the season. This is awful news, guys. I mean, you guys know how much I love me some Derrick Henry, right? Uh, but nonetheless, this is just a big blow to fantasy football, man. This year has just been filled with injuries, man. And this is probably one of the worst injuries, okay? Uh, I feel so incredibly awful for Derrick Henry. I feel so incredibly awful for fantasy managers who owned Derrick Henry. But nonetheless, man, this is very impactful. And listen, there's some benefit out there for some fantasy owners, right? Especially those at the bottom. Okay, so the reason this is the top waiver priority for the week is because we know how often the Titans run the football. Okay. So I'm assuming, okay, that Jeremy McNichols is the top dog, okay, in this offense, right? He's proven, okay. And listen, Evans is banged up. Okay. Evans would be the next man up. All right. But he's been on IR. I believe he's eligible to return in the coming weeks. And in the coming weeks, I mean by like either week 9 or week 10. Okay. But nonetheless, I just feel like McNichols, especially in PPR, is the guy to own. Now, the other interesting aspect with the trade deadline looming on November 2nd, I could actually see the Titans trading for a running back. So that's something that we need to keep in mind, right? Marlon Mack maybe stays in the same division. We'll find out. We'll find out. That's just pure speculation on my part. But nonetheless, it's an unfortunate injury. I hate to see this, man. The injuries have been so bad this year. We're not even done talking about RB1s getting injured for the day. But nonetheless, man, a huge blow to not just fantasy football, but also to the NFL, man. You guys know I love me some Derrick Henry. This is super unfortunate, but nonetheless, just due to volume alone, we have to make McNichols our number 1 waiver priority on the week. Okay, so yeah, that's no fun, no fun at all. Okay, all right, let's move on to the Eagles running backs, guys. Okay, I got this call completely wrong. I told you guys start Kenneth Gainwell with full confidence last week, right? Kenneth Gainwell was our number 1 waiver priority, right? That didn't work out, guys. Apparently, the Eagles do not want to get a lot of involvement out of Kenneth Gainwell. So, what do we do now? Okay, we got Boston Scott, who rushed for 60 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, had himself quite a nice day, excuse me. And we've got Jordan Howard, 57 rushing yards, just 3 less, and 2 scores on the day. So what do we do with this information? Okay, so we do need to consider the fact that the Lions are one of the worst teams in the entire league against opposing running backs. Obviously, that has some sort of impact here, okay? But here's the catch, guys, okay? No pun intended. The Chargers are one of the next worst teams in the NFL against opposing running backs. Before this past week, which I'm sure did not help the Lions' numbers, the Lions were 30th in the Chargers, who the Eagles face in Week 9, are 28th. Okay, so and I mean Damian Harris and company played pretty well against them, but the game script didn't allow for a giant day by the Patriots running backs. But nonetheless, man, we know that the Chargers are not good against opposing running backs. So here's the issue. I don't know which one of these players I like more. Okay. Howard didn't get a carry until the second quarter, right? But these numbers are almost exactly on par with one another. So when we're looking at Boston Scott, okay, he handled the entire first quarter, right? And then after that, it was up and down, right? And Kenneth Gainwell was sprinkled in as well. For whatever reason, I'm still leaning Boston Scott, but I do see some frustration in the near future, right? Um, and hold on, we need to pause. We need to pause. Holy cow. The man, wow, the man who I'm sporting in a Broncos jersey right now, Von Miller, has been traded to the Rams. Holy cow. No way, dude. I just got this jersey. Wow, that's wild. That's wild, man. Von Miller traded to the Rams. Wow. Okay. Okay. Wow. I don't even know what to do with that. Doesn't impact fantasy too much, but unless you own the Rams defense, that is crazy. Von Miller joining the Rams. Wow. Okay. Nonetheless, Boston Scott, Jordan Howard, it's your gamble, right? I do see some frustration coming in the future, but I don't think that it's in Week 9 versus the Chargers. Okay, I think that both these guys could have solid days once again. Don't ask me why, but I'm leaning Boston Scott. Okay, and but Jordan Howard is definitely going to see some involvement as well. It's a great matchup. Okay, so I do believe that in Week 9 we, look our turn to this Eagles backfield. All right, let's move on. The Jets running backs had themselves a wild day. So I've got them as the number 3 ranked team. Okay. So once again, uh, Cincinnati has actually been pretty good against the run. This was a very weird game script. I don't necessarily think this is going to repeat. And, I do believe that Michael Carter is probably not available in your league, but yes, he's worth the waiver wire pickup. Okay. Um, but when we're looking at Ty Johnson, okay, in his last 3 games, week 5, 10 points. Week 7, they had to bye week in week 6, right? Week 7, 10 points. Week 8, 17 points. And full PPR, those numbers would be even better. So that's 3 games in a row with double-digit fantasy points. So from that perspective, Ty Johnson needs to be rostered, okay? And Michael Carter's last 3 games, week 5, 13 points. Okay. Week 7, 12 points. And in week 8, 27 points. Once again, full PPR, those numbers are even better, right? We're just looking at the lowest possible in terms of scoring format. So at this point, you guys have been a little wary of this backfield as they are splitting time pretty evenly, but apparently it doesn't matter. Okay. 3 games in a row for both of these guys with double digit fantasy points. They need to be rostered. Okay. I don't know. I mean, tough matchups coming up, Indianapolis and Buffalo, but then they get a pretty nice stretch, right? Miami, Houston, Philly. Um, Listen, they got Jacksonville in week 16 in fantasy championships. So maybe for that reason alone, they're worth rostering. But yeah, 3 games in a row for both the Jets running backs with 10 points or more. They need to be rostered. I'm over it, man. I'm over it, right? I was very wary of this backfield, and we need to look at the stats. The stats are there. We need to grab the Jets running backs. All right. James Robinson is dealing with an injury, of course, because he is a running back on most of my fantasy squads, and all my running backs get injured. So, nonetheless, okay. Test this morning revealed that Jaguars running back James Robinson escaped serious injury and is now expected to be day to day with a foot injury that will leave his status for Sunday versus Buffalo in question. Okay, that is good news if you are a James Robinson owner. but not the best news as well. Okay, let's take another pause as I have another update to my phone, which we will actually be will be on the topic of conversation anyways. Jameis Winston done for season. The Saints quarterback suffered a torn ACL and damage to his MCL against Tampa Bay and will miss the rest of the season. Okay, we kind of already assumed that, but at the same time, we didn't know the specific injury. So there's the injury to Jameis Winston. Okay, Carlos Hyde, I do think is worth a pickup. But here's my speculation, right? I think that James Robinson probably sits in week 9 versus Buffalo just to get fully recovered. And nonetheless, this is a very, very bad matchup. So I think that Hyde is an addition due to volume and due to the fact that we know that Urban Meyer likes Carlos Hyde, right? As we saw earlier in the season, even though James Robinson has been there, right? But at the same time, I think it's a bad matchup. But if you're really, really hurting at running back, right? Maybe you're at the, uh, top of your league, right? And you have Derrick Henry, and you're not going to get a good waiver wire, right? Maybe this is a guy you can plug in week 9, just due to volume and hope that he finds the end zone. I'm not too crazy about this addition, but I think due to volume alone, we need to consider Mark, or excuse me, not Mark Ingram. Well, maybe we'll talk about Mark Ingram in a minute, but due to volume alone, we need to consider Carlos Hyde, and also due to the fact that, you know, Urban Meyer seems to like Carlos Hyde quite a bit. All right, top receiver on the week, man. You know what? Let's just jump ahead a spot to Taysom Hill as we just got that update about our guy Jameis Winston, right? I think that our loyal subscriber, right, Jason Kenobi brought this up last night while looking for a quarterback to stream while he's got Brady on bye week, right? Taysom Hill has got Atlanta in week 9. It's a fantastic matchup. He should be returning from concussion protocol, right? I mean, Trevor Siemian played pretty well in relief, but you just have to imagine that the Saints are going to want to roll with Taysom Hill. Now, could we see a circumstance where we see Siemian and Hill both out there? Sure. But nonetheless, I could see a pretty solid stat line versus this Atlanta defense in week 9 from Taysom Hill. And then in week 10, he's got Tennessee. Week 11, they've got Philadelphia. Some good matchups coming up. So matchups over the next 3 weeks alone, I think Hill is worth rostering. I wouldn't jump the gun on Trevor Siemian unless you play in a very deep Superflex league. But nonetheless, man, yeah, I'd like Taysom Hill as one of the top waiver additions for the week because we know that Jameis Winston is out for the rest of the year officially, right? But also, he's got good matchups coming up. And we know that Sean Payton will not hold back from utilizing Taysom Hill. So, yeah, Taysom Hill, a great addition. I mean, I know Steven will go over the must-start QBs for the week, but I do view this as a pure waiver wire addition as well. So make sure you keep tuned for Steven's quarterback segment on the week as well. All right, Devonte Parker, man, this is my top receiver pickup for the week. Listen, I've been eyeing Devonta Parker in almost all my leagues, but we just didn't know necessarily if he was going to suit up Sunday. And it was a bad matchup here in week 8. And honestly, I probably wouldn't have started him, although I was relatively desperate in most of in my primary league with Tim Patrick and Randall Cobb being deployed as my primary receivers. And nonetheless, this matchup versus Buffalo was not enticing at all. So listen, man, he actually performed quite well. Secured 8 of 11 targets for 85 receiving yards. We know that this Dolphins offense likes to throw the football quite a bit. And looks like Devontae Parker is going to be a big part of that, even with Will Fuller, his return looming around, right? Listen, this is a savvy veteran receiver who can get the job done. His last full start before week 8, he had 77 receiving yards and a score, right? They get Houston in week 9, then Baltimore, then the Jets, then a Carolina defense that has been a little lopsided on the year, but should look to improve. But nonetheless, man, Houston, Baltimore, and the Jets, these are 3 very good matchups. I like Devontae Parker quite a bit. My top receiver waiver addition on the week. All right, let's see here. Fearmouth, man. You guys know I've been talking about Pat F for quite some time. Okay. And now we look at his last 2 games and full PPR, he's had at least 10 fantasy points. Outside of that, week 3 is the only other time where he's had more than 5 fantasy points on the year. And most of those other weeks, he's had 3 points or less. So listen, with Juju Smith Schuster out, it looks like Pat F is starting to get more targets. Now, I like Fairmouth if you're struggling at the tight end position, right? But I don't think he's a good stream in week 9 necessarily if maybe you've got Gronk on bye week and you're really hurting, for example, right? It's a tough matchup versus Chicago. It's not a great matchup at all. But then he gets Detroit and the Chargers, right? I mean, some better matchups on the rise. And I just, it seems to be with Juju out on the year that Pat is getting a lot more targets. So I do like Fairmouth, right? Is he touchdown dependent? Sure. But most of your tight ends that you're picking up at this point in the season on the waiver wire are going to be touchdown dependent regardless. So yeah, I've been rooting for Pat F all season long. And yeah, go out and get our guy Fearmouth. Why not? All right, Rashad Bateman may still be hanging around. Um, it's possible he got picked up on the while he was on bye, as a lot of people are starting to get enticed by Rashad Bateman's fantasy volume, and I like Rashad Bateman. Okay, if he did not get picked up, listen, due to volume alone, I mean, he's looking at about 6 targets a game. We just need to see him find the end zone, but we've got a good shootout on the horizon in week 9 versus Minnesota. Then the Ravens have got Miami. So I think these are going to be 2 games where we can definitely get a good read on Rashad Bateman. This is pretty simple analysis. If he's available, I say go pick him up, right? We want pieces of this explosive offense, and we really want to see a receiver step up other than our guy Hollywood Brown. All right, Mark Ingram's the last I've got on the top 10. Okay. As you can see, I'm still a little bit torn on this, right? I mean, I got a lot of questions throughout the week. What do we think about Mark Ingram, right? What do we think about his fantasy output? And to be honest, I was like, I don't know if this is going to be a huge amount of volume, right? And it wasn't a huge amount, but nonetheless, he still totaled over 50 yards on the day, both through the air and on the ground. So, being that Alvin Kamara is the RB1, being that this was a pretty competitive game, that's pretty good volume overall for Mark Ingram. Here's the thing, right? If he can find the end zone, then he's worth the addition, right? Because if he's averaging 40 to 50 yards a game, and he just finds the end zone, then that makes him worth the addition. Okay. Obviously, Kamara is there, right? Obviously, it'd be a great handcuff situation. God forbid anything happen to Alvin Kamara. But listen, the Saints have Atlanta in week 9, then Tennessee, then Philadelphia. They have got 3 fantastic matchups coming up. Maybe some garbage time involved. If not, maybe some shootouts involved. And I could see Mark Ingram getting very much involved in these games towards the end of the second half, right? So I like Mark Ingram. I'm not crazy about it, right? I still don't think that we're going to see insane numbers really, but I also think that he is relatively touchdown dependent, if not 100% touchdown dependent. Okay. So there's a little bit of a gamble here, but if you're absolutely hurting at running back, just looking into the next 3 weeks and these great matchups, yes, I think you can add Mark Ingram, but just do it with a little bit of hesitation. All right, let's see who we got in the chat. Then I'll go ahead and knock out the rest of the notes for the day. Those are my top 10 waiver pickups for week 9. All right, guys, make sure you hit that like button and let's keep rolling. Aiden, that's crazy. Rams defense nuts. Wale says Von Miller. Yes. Look, I just got this jersey. Okay. My wife just bought me this jersey. It's crazy. I mean, I'm happy for Vaughn. I think he's in a better situation to win another Super Bowl. I'm incredibly happy for Von Miller. I think the Broncos are going to regret this. I thought the Broncos were trying to build a super team in the offseason. Von Miller at the beginning of the season was on pace for, defensive player of the year, right? I mean, at least in the conversation, the top 5 guys. He's played well, and he's always played well. Just, okay, I don't want to go on a tangent about Von Miller. It is crazy news. It's wild. The Rams defense, Von Miller and Aaron Donald on the same team. Whew. All right, Cole Pierce, CD or DJ Moore? I'm leaning CD Lamb, man. Even if Dak doesn't play in week 9, I'm leaning CD Moore, or CD Moore. Wow, CD Lamb, excuse me. Listen, this Panthers offense starting to get a little unproductive, right? I like CD Lamb. listen, I love that offense as a whole. I'd roll CeeDee Lamb all day. Cole Pierce. All right. Thanks for coming out, everyone, man. Let's go ahead and get through the rest of the notes. And if you guys have any other questions, throw them in the live chat. I'll get to them at the end of the stream. And we will be streaming tonight as usual. So make sure you guys stay tuned for tonight's fantasy Q&A as well. All right, let's go through the notes. Van Jefferson getting a little bit of buzz, right? Listen, I don't hate Van Jefferson, but I do think, he's been wildly inconsistent. And yeah, I get the fact that Deshaun Jackson is not going to play anymore. I get it. But at the same time, he's been mildly inconsistent. Okay. So I don't love this addition, but if you're really, really in a bad position at wide receiver, you could take a gamble as the Rams do face Tennessee in week 9. Okay, Will Fuller, still someone we want to monitor, but I want to see him back in a full game before we add him. Okay, I'm not crazy about Will Fuller. I'm leaning Devonte Parker first. And let's see here. Did I skip? I completely skipped Logan Thomas, who was my number 6 waiver edition on the week. So I apologize, guys. I did not mean to skip over. I only gave you guys my top 9. I skipped over Logan Thomas. So Logan Thomas has been dropped in a lot of leagues. He's like around 53% owned, depending on what format you play through. Okay. Listen, whenever he does come back, right? Washington's on bye week in week 9. Okay. So I just want to keep an eye on Logan Thomas because I think this is probably your last chance to add him and run with it, right? I think you can take the gamble next week before week 10, but he might not be around. If you want to lock up Logan Thomas, that's why I have him ranked so high this week. If you want to lock him up, you got to do it now. Okay. If he is available in your league, that is. He's still, rostered in a lot of leagues and a lot of, by coincidence, owners that have an IR spot that's not filled by the 17 running backs that have gotten injured on the season, then Logan Thomas is rostered already. But listen, if you want Logan Thomas, go lock him up now because I think it's be a much higher a gamble before we head into week 10. Okay, the Texans running backs, man, listen, they're still making a lot of buzz and waiver wire news out there. I don't know, man. Listen, the game script was not there at all. I get that. But at the same time, man, I just don't feel great about going out and getting Philip Lindsay or David Johnson. Okay. They didn't even combine for 2 points. Okay. I get it. The game script was not there at all for the Texans. Okay. They got a bye week here in week 10, and they face Tennessee and the Jets, who actually have been Tennessee has been a lot better against the run than we like to believe. And then the Jets have been awful. So maybe for week 12, they're worth the addition, but we really didn't get a big read of what this backfield is going to look like without David Johnson. So for me, without Mark Ingram, right? So for me, I'm holding off, right? I don't want either of these players on my roster while they're on bye week anyways, and then it's not a great matchup in week 10. But maybe we at least get a better read of how to look at this backfield in week 10. But for me, I'm staying away from the Houston running backs, man. It's just not a good situation. Now, can one of them step up as RB1? Sure. It's something that we need to monitor, but here and going into week 9, it's just not relevant for me. If you're in a really good position and you got a player that you want to get rid of, and you don't get any other waivers, then yes, take a shot on one of these guys. I know Philip Lindsay's making a little bit of more buzz as he's a younger back, and maybe David Johnson will see more of a third down role. I'm not sure, but I'm just staying away from the situation for this week. Okay. So we know that Josh Jacobs is still dealing with a chest injury, right? The Raiders have been on bye week. We don't really have any great updates on the situation, but nonetheless, going into week 9, I am hearing buzz about picking up Peyton Barber. That's fine, but I think with what we've seen happen in yesterday, right, with the Eagles running backs, the Jets running backs, Derrick Henry going down, James Robinson going down, there are better options at the running back position, right? And I would, as time has gone on in the past 24 hours, I'm not as crazy about the Carlos Hyde addition as James Robinson is day to day. I would believe that Josh Jacobs is probably going to be day to day as well, headed into week 9. So I would view Peyton Barber in kind of similar fashion to Carlos Hyde, right? This is a big gamble in terms of this being your top waiver wire priority because the primary back might be available come game time with James Robinson and Josh Jacobs, respectively, right? And then when we're looking at the Eagles running backs, the Jets running backs, Jeremy McNichols, right? They're going to be plug and plays right away. So I think there are better options, but if you're really hurting, then of course, we need to keep an eye on guys like Carlos Hyde and Peyton Barber if you're really hurting, but it's probably going to be a game time decision in my eyes. All right, Devonta Freeman and Latavius Murray still might be out there, right, with the Ravens on week 8. Yes, I think they're worth an addition, but I think they're both 100% touchdown dependent. So just tamper expectations there, okay? And I think out of the two, I'd rather have Freeman still. All right, Jameson Crowder. Okay, if he is available in your league, which is possible, especially if you're in a 10-man league or less, or potentially a 12-man league, right? Listen, Mike White got his first start. Lightning Mike is the man in town. Okay, he looks phenomenal. So listen, okay, I don't want to talk too much about the Jets quarterbacks. That doesn't really matter. Regardless, if Jameson Crowder is available, yes, he is worth adding to your roster, especially with Corey Davis out. And even if Corey Davis comes back, in full PPR, Crowder is still worth the addition. Michael Gallup of the Cowboys, if he's available, right? He should be picked up right away in roster. Maybe not started right away, but he should be picked up. All right, Dearness Johnson. Okay, guys, I told you guys, right? Don't panic and drop Dearness Johnson because we've already seen the Browns move forward with both, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb on the season. So being an RB2 on the Browns is not a bad thing behind arguably the best offensive line in football and a Browns team that is really struggling to throw the football. Okay, so Dearest Johnson didn't have a wild day, right? He didn't do anything close to what he did week 7, right? But listen, Cincinnati's pretty good against the run, but Pittsburgh is pretty darn good against the run, and Dearest Johnson still had a pretty good fantasy day yesterday. So I like Johnson. He might be available. He may have been dropped, even from teams that started him and just said, I don't think he's going to see that same volume with Nick Chubb back. So keep an eye on Johnson. I don't think this is a crazy high ceiling play, but I do think he is worth the addition. Okay. Listen, the Cincinnati Bengals just got absolutely torched. I mean, they've been good against the run, but the Jets running backs just torched them. Now, think of this as a similar situation with Chubb and Johnson going out there. Yeah, I like Johnson quite a bit. Okay, Amir Abdullah of the Panthers getting some buzz, right? Listen, this may have been game script, right? The Falcons just did not play well defensively against the run. Chuba Hubbard had a good day. I want more of a sample size out of Amir Abdullah before we go out and add him. Okay, and CMC's return looming as well. So I don't know how crazy about that one I am, but sure, it's worth monitoring Amir Abdullah. Okay, Deshaun Watson, right? We talked about Deshaun Watson a lot last week. Okay, this situation has not gotten any less foggy, but nonetheless, keep an eye on Deshaun Watson in that situation. We'll get you guys updates as well. Marlon Mack, another guy who we're hoping gets traded to an RB needy team. Like we said at the beginning of the stream, maybe the Titans. We'll find out. But keep an eye on Marlon Mack and his situation. We're going to be keeping an eye on all of the trade deadline situations as well. And don't worry, guys. Anything big comes out fantasy related, we will get you guys updated as the trade deadline is ends tomorrow. So we'll definitely be getting you guys updated when we can. Okay. Outside of that, man, if Carson Wentz is still hanging around, right? He's got the Jets on Thursday Night Football. He's worth the addition. If Tua's hanging around, right? He's worth the addition. I know he had a bad day against Buffalo, but Buffalo's defense is freaking fantastic. So yeah, I mean, I'm not crazy about Tua, but if you need a good option to stream for the week, he may have gotten dropped just looking at the matchup, against Buffalo. And I would put Tua right up there facing Houston in week 9 with a guy like Taysom Hill facing the Falcons. Okay. All right, let's see here. Okay, this is a good topic that I've got here at the end. Okay. Obviously, Calvin Ridley taking a break from football, right? You guys might be surprised to not see Tajay Sharp or Russell Gage in the top 10 additions for the week, right? And listen, they faced the Saints in week 9. It's a bad matchup. Although, I mean, the Saints secondary has been relatively vulnerable. Whoever steps up as the number one guy is facing Marshawn Lattimore. So that makes it a bad matchup. Now, whoever ends up being the number two guy is probably going to have a better day. The way I'm reading this right now is Tajay Sharp is the number one guy. Okay. He just seemed to play more of that role where we know that Russell Gage can fits better in like a number two type spot and more of a flashy big play guy. But Gage drew 0 targets, which really concerns me. Tajay Sharp drew 6 targets. So that's another reason why I'm saying, well, maybe Sharp is the number one guy that Matt Ryan is going to look for. Now, maybe it's also true that Russell Gage has had a fluke day. I don't know, right? Carolina's been pretty good against opposing receivers. Their defense has played very well in the season, right? We saw our guy Stephon Gilmore out there. So, nonetheless, I am just concerned about recommending you guys going out and spending a top waiver priority on one of these guys. I think we give it another week to see how this situation plays out. Obviously, Cordell Patterson and Kyle Pitts, as well as Mike Davis, are going to see the bulk of the targets, right? Patterson gets a lot of targets. Mike Davis has gotten a lot of targets on the season as well. And of course, Kyle Pitts is really going to have to step up as he had a bit of a rough go against Carolina Panthers defense. So, if you guys are surprised that I didn't put a Falcons receiver in the top 10, there's a lot of concerns there. And this offense still isn't the best by any means. And yeah, like I said, it's not an awful matchup versus the Saints secondary, but whoever gets Lattimore is going to have a bad day. And then the Saints front seven has played phenomenal. So it's not a great matchup in general, although the secondary has been a little bit vulnerable. Okay. But same time, I just want to give this another week or so to see how this plays out. If you had to take a gamble on one of the two in full PPR, I think I'm leaning Tajay Sharp. All right, Hunter Renfro may have gotten dropped in some leagues out there with the Raiders on bye this past week. He's definitely worth a roster. Okay. With Dawson Knox out, Gabriel Davis has seen some more targets. Buffalo faces the Jaguars in week 9. If you're really struggling in deeper leagues, you could take a shot on Gabriel Davis. Tre'Quan Smith of the Saints. The Saints have got Atlanta in week 9, so we want to exploit this matchup as much as possible. Listen, he only garnered 3 targets, but he did score a touchdown. I like Smith as a receiver to add right now for the Saints. Listen, Marquez Callaway has been so inconsistent. Hopefully, one of these Saints receivers can step up. Will Michael Thomas still be on the Saints by tomorrow? I'm not quite sure. We'll find out. If you have to go with the Saints receiver right now, I'm leaning Smith, but knowing how things go in the NFL, that means Callaway is going to have a good week. So probably shouldn't listen to me, but it's a good matchup for the Saints receivers versus the Falcons. Okay. Listen, Tim Patrick, right? We were concerned about Tim Patrick. Okay. Still had himself quite a good day. Only 3 targets, right? But he caught all of them for 64 receiving yards. We expected a much better day out of the Denver Broncos receivers versus that Washington football team secondary. But listen, for like the 9th week in a row, if Tim Patrick is hanging around out there, I think he should still be rostered even with Jerry Jeudy's return. MVS, Marcus Valdes-Scantling of the Packers, is coming back from being placed on IR/COVID, right? And mainly, I mean, he was on the IR list, but now they just call it the IR/COVID list. But nonetheless, man, he should compete for that number 2 spot with Davante Adams coming back, okay? So Randall Cobb is not going to like this. You know that I am a Randall Cobb supporter. Obviously, we know that Randall Cobb can still do it, man. Scoring 2 touchdowns in Thursday Night Football against the Cardinals. Listen, the Packers face the Kansas City Chiefs in week 9. So that alone, I think, makes us, take a look at MVS, right? Listen, I still think the pecking order is probably going to go Davante Adams, MVS, and then Randall Cobb in the slot, and then a little bit of Allen Lazard when he's back from COVID sprinkled in there. But listen, with Robert Tonyan out for the season, I don't even remember who the tight end who had to step up for the Packers was, but he looked a little bit lost, right? Had that one play where he went in motion and Aaron Rodgers had to call a timeout, and I thought he was going to be kicked off the team the next morning because he made Aaron Rodgers very upset. But nonetheless, Tanyan's out, right? That means more red zone targets for guys like Randall Cobb and MVS. So it's a good matchup in week 9, man. I mean, I know Tanyan was not impressive on the season. Really, only 2 games worth, worth a damn in fantasy this year. But nonetheless, man, keep an eye on MVS. Maybe don't go and spend a waiver priority on him, but we need to keep an eye on the situation regardless. All right. Tyler Conklin is not someone that I've been crazy about on the season, man. But listen, Uh, it's a good matchup here headed into week 9, excuse me, for the Vikings. Right, they've got Baltimore. He's been very very bad against opposing tight ends, and in his last 2 starts, and he's had at least 8 points. So if you're really struggling at tight end, you could take a swing on him. Okay, CJ Uzma. Right, we've talked about Uzma a lot in the past couple weeks, and I told you guys I'm very wary of this matchup for Uzma against the Jets, right? I mean, we're just seeing a lot of inconsistency out of CJ Uzma, but at the same time, man, I think that there's probably better options at the tight end position. Okay. He ended up with around 5 points versus the Jets. I just told you guys, move forward with caution with this one. He is extremely touchdown dependent, but Pat Freermuth did find a nice outing versus the Browns, who the Bengals face here in week 9. So he's got boomer bust written all over him. 4 receptions, 33 receiving yards versus the Jets. The Browns aren't a great matchup, like I said, but Freermuth had an okay day. So another touchdown dependent tight end. I still think he's up there as Dan Arnold's making buzz at the tight end position, right? I think those two guys are relatively similar. That you'd have to really be struggling. I mean, I actually like Conklin more, but if you want to roll the dice, right, Uzma's probably still worth a shot, but it's a boomer bust touchdown dependent play all day. And then Dan Arnold, another guy who's had himself a decent day, right? He had 9 targets versus Seattle, right? But he does have an awful matchup here headed into week 9 versus Buffalo. So maybe we stay away from him. Okay. Evan Engram facing the Chiefs tonight. But listen, there's some trade speculation going around for Evan Engram. So we want to keep an eye on Engram. All right. Alley Cox did not score a touchdown. Our guy, Jack Doyle, stole it from him. So keep an eye on Alley Cox, right? The Jets defense is not very good. So it's a risky play once again. I really liked Alley Cox going in to this matchup against Tennessee, and it didn't happen, right? He's in my must-start segment. Regardless, now I'm a little bit wary of starting him, but it's a good matchup versus the Jets. You can take a gamble there if you want to. All right. Let's see here. That should cap things off. I'll leave the defensive streams up to Steven. There's maybe 1 or 2 other players I want to go over very quickly. Okay. I'm hearing some buzz about picking up Brandon Nyuk. I ain't doing it. I know he had his best game since week 3 where he scored a touchdown, right? Ended up with 45 receiving yards, and then he had the 2-point conversion as well. He's got Arizona and LA. I'm still staying away from Brandon Ayuk, guys. I know there's buzz out there. I'm staying away from him. Okay, Jamal Agnew of the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you're really hurting at receiver, has double-digit fantasy points in his last 2 starts. Worth a look. 78 receiving yards in week 6 versus Miami, the bye week in week 7, and 38 receiving yards yesterday versus Seattle, and a score. Now, he's got Buffalo and Indy coming up, right? Indy, a decent matchup, right? Buffalo, a very bad matchup, so I don't think he has a very good week 9. But once again, double-digit fantasy points in the last 2 starts makes him worth a look. Okay, my final waiver sleeper guy that I've talked about a little bit in the past couple of weeks is Ced Wilson. Week 3, a touchdown. Week 4, a touchdown. Weeks 5 and 6, pretty forgettable. At least 5 fantasy points, but nothing better than that. Week 7, the bye week, and then that huge play versus Minnesota last night, his best stat line on the season. Listen, don't go chasing the points from week 8, but if you're in a 14-man plus league and you're really hurting at receiver, listen, I know Gallup is coming back, but this is just at least a player to keep an eye on. I really want it to happen. I don't think with Gallup coming back that this is going to be a lock. But nonetheless, Ced Wilson has played very well as a fill-in for Gallup. And while it's not a great matchup versus Denver, I mean, it's not a bad matchup for these number 3 and 4 receivers of the Cowboys because all that defensive pressure is going to be on CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, and even probably Dalton Schultz as well. So it's not an awful week awful week for guys like Michael Gallup and Ced Wilson in week 9 versus Denver. But then on the flip side, the Cowboys are going to be facing Atlanta, Kansas City, Las Vegas, New Orleans, and Washington in the coming weeks. Those are some juicy matchups, especially for your number 3 and number 4 receivers. So keep an eye on Ced Wilson. It's worth a shot if you're in a very deep league. All right, that does it, man. Those are all of our waiver wire additions here in week 9. I think I hit everyone that I wanted to. So thank you guys so much for coming out. I'm going to hop into the chat, man. Make sure you guys hit that like button, man. Make sure if you guys are new here, you are sub down below as well. All right, Jerry, what's going on, everyone? My season is over with Henry being out. Jerry, I hate it, man. I seriously, I hate it for you, man. It's awful. It's awful for the NFL. It's awful for fantasy owners. It's awful, man. I'm so sorry to hear it, Jerry. I put in a waiver for McNichols. I think that's a good place to be. If you missed the beginning of the stream, you go back to the beginning later, Jerry, and maybe some other running backs you can deploy for the time being as well. Hate to hear it. Juke, I need help. All right, Juke, we'll get you some help, my guy. Jerry, 380 subs, road to 400. Yes, sir. We are on the road to 400 subs here at the Catch, so make sure you are subscribed down below, part of the Catch. Bam. Juke, Henry hurt screws me. I have CMC, but have Javonte Williams and Michael Carter. Are they good enough to not freak out and go buy RB, or should I try to target someone? I would target someone. Okay, CMC is going to potentially lead. Potentially lead your squad. We got an update. Von Miller trade compensation. LA is sending a pair of day 2 picks and the 2022 NFL draft to Denver in exchange for the former Super Bowl MVP. Okay, there we go. Listen, yes, you can start Williams and Carter in the meantime. They're not going to have crazy high ceilings. But listen, man, you can go out and get McNichols. You can go out and get Boston Scott. Go out and get Jordan Howard, right? If Ty Johnson's hanging around, I hate to see you start 2 Jets running backs, but you can go out and take a swing on him too. I would lean Michael Carter, right? I would stay away from Johnson. But Eagles running backs and McNichols are your top waiver priorities. I don't think you need to panic if the rest of your team looks pretty solid, right? With CMC is going to have to be your saving grace, though. But I wouldn't hurt the rest of your roster. I mean, I know this is your best fantasy player, right? But I wouldn't go losing wide receiver ones, tight end ones, other running back ones, right? I would take a swing on some waiver. I mean, play the waiver game while you can and go get McNichols as well. Andrew, Khalil Herbert's still good play against Pittsburgh or D Williams, or can I drop him? Yeah, this is tough to answer, man. I like Herbert quite a bit still. He had a great day, actually. He just didn't find the end zone. But he played very well with the touches that he got. So I do like Khalil Herbert still. And I'm assuming that's Darrell Williams of the Chiefs, right? They're fine. Unless you're asking, just clarify me if it's not Darrell Williams, right? Listen, I wouldn't give up on Herbert yet, but yes, there's a lot of flashy options. We got McNichols, we got both the Eagles running backs, we got the Jets running backs, right? If James Robinson doesn't play, we've got Carlos Hyde. If Josh Jacobs doesn't play, we've got Peyton Barber. Mark Ingram might be looming around as well. So we've got options, man. We've got options, and if those seem like better options, then you can consider it. But I'm not giving up on Herbert, although it is a bad matchup. You are correct about that. Let's see here. Michael, that jersey causes me pain, forever Bronco. Yeah, I can't believe that I came up here in the Von Miller jersey, which I just got from my wife last month. And hey, he is forever a Bronco, though, and a Super Bowl MVP for the Broncos at that. So shout out Von Miller. And like I said, I'm very happy for Von Miller in the sense that I think he's in a better position to win a Super Bowl with the Rams, right? And I'm going to love him in this defense. This is crazy, man. Mark, what's going on, Mark? Always good to see you, my guy. I like Vaughn going to the Rams. What's up, everyone? Good to see you, Mark. What's going on with you, man? Yeah, I like it too. I mean, I hate it for a lot of reasons, and I love it for a lot of reasons. I think it's good for Vaughn, though, in the end, so I'm happy for him. Let's see. Jerry, at Damn, I think he should be okay for a week or two. Maybe CMC comes back. Yeah. Let's see here. Jerry, what's up, everyone? How did you guys do this past weekend? Yeah, I did okay. What was I? 2-1 this weekend? Yeah, 2-1. Let Jerry know how you did. Andrew, I won. I did good. There we go. Is the Rams traded for Von Miller with what cap space? Yeah. That'll be interesting to see. Why is Stephon Diggs struggling to be fantasy relevant? Listen, guys, I'm hearing a lot of buzz about Diggs being not fantasy relevant, and I just don't agree with this statement, man. Listen, he is not, giving you a crazy high ceiling on a weekly basis, but he's only had 2 games on the season with less than 10 points. Okay, I mean, especially coming off of a very slow game script for the Bills versus Miami, and he still showed that he was the top guy in that offense. Okay, 40 receiving yards and a touchdown, right? And then in week 6, before the bye week, in week 7, 89 receiving yards and a touchdown. I mean, these are fine numbers, okay? And then even when you look at the 2 weeks where he had under 10 points, well, he still had over 60 receiving yards. He just didn't find the end zone in the most crowded offense in the NFL. And I mean, if you really think these are struggling terms, then that's your answer. Okay. You got Cole Beasley, right? Gabriel Davis has been good at times. Dawson Knox, I know, is injured, but has been a big factor in this offense. Emmanuel Sanders, I know, had an awful day yesterday, but has still been very relevant in this offense. Okay. Both these running backs, Zach Moss and Devin Singletary, see some receiving work, especially Zach Moss. So it's just a crowded offense, guys. I wouldn't overreact. Would not trade Stephon Diggs, right? I would rather trade for him, if anything. I mean, listen, the Buffalo Bills have got Jacksonville, the Jets, then Indianapolis, then a tough match, two tough matchups with with New Orleans and New England, where Stephon Diggs will probably face most of the defensive pressure, but then a great matchup versus Tampa Bay. So I think we're going to see some really good weeks out of Stephon Diggs. And to answer your question, I think that it's just a crowded offense, man. I wouldn't overreact to it, though. Oz, I love my Colts, but it's clear the NFL didn't pick them to win anything this year. Hey, Derrick Henry going down is huge for the Colts, guys. It's huge. This is, I mean, if the Colts could have won yesterday, man, and I get what you're saying, right? There's some awful calls yesterday in that game. I 100% agree. But at the same time, I hate it. I hate it for Derrick Henry. I hate it for the Titans. But this is big for the Colts. If they could have won yesterday, they would have they would have a lot of momentum right now. Jared, I was able to get Lockett back, but I had to lose Henry, a soul for a soul. Tough. Very, very tough, Jerry. It's not good. All right, let's see here. Andrew Damian Williams. Okay, yeah. I mean, between the two, I would rather have Herbert, but like I said, there are some flashy options out there. Okay. Flashier options, I should say, between the Jets running backs, the Eagles running backs, et cetera, et cetera. So I get it. It's not a good matchup. If you don't feel good deploying Herbert in that matchup, then I think you definitely lean with the Eagles running backs, the Jets running backs, or Jeremy McNichols if you can claim them off of waivers. And I get it. It's not a good matchup for Herbert, so it's probably a smart move there. Let's see here. Jason, should I trade DJ Moore for Deontay? Yeah, I would consider that for sure. Should I pick up the Titans running back? Yeah, I think he's probably due to. All right, let's see here. Derrick Henry undergoing foot surgery. Coach Vrabel did not have a timetable. I'm still assuming he's out for the season. I think McNichols due to volume is the top waiver addition. Oz. Stephon really isn't fantasy relevant. He's only had 2 good games this season. He is barely top 30 in the ranks. I mean, I think that probably depends on what your definition of a good game is. When I'm looking at these numbers, Stephon Diggs has been solid on the season. And I guess you're saying, I mean, he's had, like I said, at least 10 fantasy points in every game this year, except for 2. Well, depending on scoring format, except for 1. And yeah, the stats are there. I mean, I would be happy with Stephon Diggs. And like I said, he's got Jacksonville and the Jets coming up. I would not panic on Stephon Diggs. And the only reason we've seen maybe not a crazy ceiling on a weekly basis is because this offense is so freaking loaded. So, yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on what your definition of a good game is. And I mean, maybe due to where you drafted him, you're considering that not relevant, right? Because maybe you paid a pretty penny for him. There are other guys, absolutely balling out like Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Debo Samuel. So I can understand that. But I think he's been fine on the season, in my opinion. Real Goated, hey, Catch, what's going on, man? What's going on, Real Goated? It's a good game, is a touchdown at least 80 plus yards. Well, hey, if that's your definition, then yeah, I guess he has not been fantasy relevant on the season. All right, let's see here. I'm pretty sure Henry is out for the season, says Jason. Yeah, I think he's done, it's just awful. It is. Jerry, I think DJ Moore has the bigger upside. Ooh, I like Deontay Johnson right now. I mean, I'm a little worried about. I haven't really panicked on the Panthers offense, man, but I'm a little bit panicky right now. Okay, Let's see how Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson has not had a single game over under 12 points on the season. Okay, so I feel very good in terms of consistency, but you might be right there, Jerry, that DJ Moore on some weeks might offer you a higher ceiling, but we really haven't seen him, get over 15 points since week 4. So he's been trending pretty far downward, and he's got New England and Arizona coming up, which are not great matchups. So I would lean Deontay Johnson there. Jerry at Oz, I'm trying to pick up the Titans running back. Yeah, I think if Henry went down for you, that McNichols just due to volume is the next best pickup. But look at these Eagles running backs, guys. Look at these Jets running backs as well. Steven's in the house. Yeah, there are other options as well, guys. Steven, John, just doing a quick jump into the stream, but the RB committee ad in Tennessee will be interesting. Go Colts. Think the biggest impact is a boost for AJ Brown. Yeah, and AJ Brown's been fantastic on the season, man. I love where he's trending and everything. So I think you're probably right. Probably help potentially some of these other receivers on the Titans, right? Hopefully Julio, maybe Julio. It'll be interesting because McNichols plays better as a PPR back. So maybe we see, not only, of course, his volume from a rushing standpoint increase, but his targets increase as well. Andrea, should I drop Matt Ryan now that I have Josh Allen? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Go get a top waiver priority. Drop Matt Ryan all the way. Steven, Tannehill gets much more passing volume, which we could see the downfall of his efficiency, but increased fantasy output, and he could become a much more scramble first quarterback. Yeah. Similar fantasy value to a guy like wildcard Danny Dimes, who brings serious wheels on a weekly basis. Yeah, and it's a great point statement because Tannehill can run the football. Like, we've always known this, right? He had games last year where he went nuts running the football, right? Now, maybe not nuts, but he could run the football. We know that much, right? So I do like Ryan Tannehill's fantasy output going forward because, listen, let's pull up the stats on Tannehill, okay? He's definitely been inconsistent as well as disappointing on the season, right? So let's see here if I can't get this pulled up. Okay, here we go. Ooh, he only has 2 games on the season with 20 or more fantasy points. He gets, man, just a tough stretch. Rams and New Orleans. Okay, these are 2 big games for the Titans. You only have 2 losses on the season. That could help out your Colts as well, Stephen. These aren't great matchups. These are going to be good tests for Ryan Tannehill. But let's see here. He has not thrown for 300 yards in a single game. He has against Seattle in week 2. I apologize, but he did not throw, a single touchdown in that game, and he fumbled. Wow. That should have been his best stat line, right? But nonetheless, man, I like the direction that Tannehill and these receivers are headed towards, of course. Let's see here. Jerry, we miss you at Steven. I'm sure Steven misses you guys as well. Ron the Goat, what's going on, man? What's up, boys? Just got off work. Hope you're doing well, Ron. Hope you had a good day at work. Oz up 5 points in fantasy. My opponent has 1 player left to play. Patrick Mahomes. He comes a 4-4 record for me. Yeah. Unless something awful happens in the very beginning of that game. I don't think you're going to pull it out, my guy. But everyone say a prayer for Oz and his fantasy output tonight. I mean, what? Patrick Mahomes had 6 points last time he played? You never know. You never know, man. Jerry, I'm watching the stream as I take my dog to the bathroom. Hey, there you go. Shout out to Jerry's dog. Simon for President. Hello, Catch fam. What's going on, man? Steven, miss you too, dog. Big dog, I should say. See you tomorrow on the stream. Yeah, Steven will be on sharp tomorrow at 8 p.m. when we kick off tomorrow's fantasy Q&A. Ron the Goat, also advice, being offered Cook for Henderson because of Henderson's recent uptick in fantasy points. Full PPR. Do I accept? Wow. That's a big decision. And my gut instinct is telling me lean on D-Tendies. Lean on Henderson. Am I crazy? I don't think so, man. Galvin Cook's been wildly inconsistent on the season. Only 2 games on the season where he's had 15 or more fantasy points, right? A lot of injuries. Okay, he gets Baltimore and the Chargers. Those are pretty decent matchups, especially the Chargers is a great matchup. Ooh, man. Those are next two matchups. Then it's pretty middle of the pack after that. But I mean, I guess you could you could argue that he's matchup proof. But Henderson has been so consistent on the season. Only one game this season with less than 15 or less than 14 points, excuse me. And that was just a lopsided game, against Detroit, where the game script got out of hand and the Rams stopped running the football, right? So he gets Tennessee and San Fran coming up, right? Um, then a bye week, then Green Bay, which is not a great matchup, but then Jacksonville, right? Arizona, divisional game, you can still roll the dice there, but then Seattle and Minnesota, decent middle of the pack matchup, but Seattle in week 15. I don't know, man. Am I crazy for saying keep Henderson? I think you keep Henderson. Henderson's been so consistent on the season. We were worried with that rib injury early on, right? Maybe we see a little bit of inconsistency, but right now Dalvin Cook's been so inconsistent. Yes, the ceiling might be higher for Dalvin Cook just because of the name, but I think we're leaning Henderson here, man. You aren't crazy. My gut is saying the same thing. It's just that everyone is ranking Cook like 1 through 5 running back rest of the season. I think he's closer to the 10 range, man, like 5 to 10. Okay. And I think Henderson's up there too. I think just looking at injury history and consistency, we keep Henderson here. I think it's a safer play. Simon for President, not having a good morning. Have Henry and J Rob. Oh, I am sorry, man. Yeah, I feel very, very bad for a lot of you guys, all you guys who own, who own Derrick Henry, of course, and then me being a James Robinson owner, I feel for you guys who own James Robinson. Now, the good news that we went over kind of earlier on in the stream is that it does look like James Robinson will be day to day. He avoided an extreme serious injury, so that's good. That's good news, man. Right? So keep that in mind as well, and maybe things get better for James Robinson. We'll find out. Jerry says, I think you keep Henderson. Ron the Goat says, thanks, boys. Absolutely. We got your back, my guy. All right, guys, we're going to cap off the stream for now. We will be back on tonight. I'll get the stream schedule, 9:30, 10. We'll find out later on. But Monday Night Football hangout tonight, as well as live fantasy Q&A. I'm trying to keep the waiver wire streams to an hour or less. So thank you guys for coming out. Had a blast as always, man. Make sure you guys hit that like button on your way out. If you guys watch this retrospectively, please feel free to drop any comments pertaining to the 2021 fantasy football season down below. I will personally respond to every single question that we get. If you guys are new here, make sure you subscribe down below and become part of the Catch fam. And with that, I got nothing else to say, but good luck to you guys. I know that there's a lot of tough news over the past 24 hours in terms of fantasy, but a lot of big names, or maybe not big names, but a lot of flashy running backs headed into week 9 to put in top waiver priorities for. So top 10 waiver guys at the top of the screen. If you guys missed anything, you can always watch this retrospectively as well. So Simon, what time tonight? By 10 p.m., if not earlier, 9:30 at the earliest. So Simon for President, peace out. Andrea, peace out. Jerry, peace out. Mister, good to see you popping in here at the last minute. So got nothing else to say, but thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on The Catch, and peace.